welcome to the Kelly Roach Show, a place for no fluff, easy to implement, 20-minute or less business and leadership lessons to help you build a sustainable business that scales. Let's get started. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is the Kelly Roach Show, and I'm super pumped to have with me here today, Adam Tank. Hey, Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kelly, thanks.
So Adam has a long and very fascinating journey and has accomplished quite a lot. One of the topics that really caught my attention, obviously, I am all about bringing clean drinking water to people around the world. That's one of our philanthropic focuses as an organization. And you have done a huge service to the world in the creation that you helped to bring to the world, and then, facilitated obviously a transaction around it. You have learned and helped many others around this idea of gaining investors for their business so that they can accomplish their highest potential. So let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and how did we twist and turn the way that we did? I would love for people to hear that.
Sure. I appreciate you asking the question, Kelly. My journey has been, I'd say, fairly non-traditional in the sense that I grew up in a family that had no business sense at all. None. I was taught that the paycheck every 2 weeks, the big company benefits, knowing where your food's going to come from, that's the only way you can live. And so it was basically government employees and public school teachers. Yeah. And when I entered college, my first real foray into entrepreneurship was that I had a fraternity brother who was a giant stoner. He worked at Papa John's Pizza. And one of the challenges...
we're already winning.
There we go. Right, exactly. It's perfect. It's it's a match made in heaven. So he was working at Papa John's, and one of the challenges they had was that when they make pizzas, all of the ingredients oftentimes get mixed into the bins with one another. So the cheese gets into the sauce gets into the meats, et cetera. And it causes big problems, refunds, upset customers, et cetera, health, safety concerns. So we created a simple device that helped keep those ingredients separate. And the only reason this is important to note for my entrepreneurial journey is that the only thing I did relative to creating that business was be the pitch guy. I didn't know what a business plan was. I didn't know how to sell, create a product. I didn't know anything other than how to speak. And my business partner, told me, I don't need you to do anything more than just present in front of the judges for this entrepreneurship competition. And we went from there. We won that pitch comp. And then that sort of kicked off my entrepreneurial journey. And it's been a wild ride since.
That's amazing.
Yep.
And I love the fact that you're pointing out something that I think is really unknown in the world of entrepreneurship, which is that CEOs and founders of companies can play such vastly different roles. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting that in the real world of business, the CEO or the founder, many times the founder is not even necessarily involved in the day-to-day at all. They may just sit on the board, or they may just be an outside investor, whatever the case. I love that from the very beginning, your partner was like, okay, I'm going to be the guy behind the scenes here. You're going to be the guy that goes out and does the talking and, whatever. And you were both able to leverage your strengths, and obviously it worked. And I think it's something so important for entrepreneurs to think about, because I think most entrepreneurs spend 98% of their time trying to be something that they're not and do something that makes them miserable, instead of saying, hey, let me figure out this one part of the business that I'm exceptional at, and then let me go find people to surround myself with that can do the rest.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Doubling down on the strengths is something that isn't often taught. Everyone always says, be willing to fail, be willing to fail. And I get it. If you're taking shots, you're going to miss some. That's just the way it works.
Yes.
However, I think you seriously enhance your chance of success if you focus on what you're good at, because that's something that other people can't easily replicate.
Agreed.
Why spend time trying to get good at something you're not when you can take something you're good at and become great? That's what gets you to the next level.
That's the stuff. Absolutely. Okay. So I didn't mean to interrupt the journey.
No, you're good. You're good.
You win the pitch competition,
yes.
And then what happens?
So I was a microbiology major in college, which is why I had no clue about business. Okay. And when I graduated, I had an MCAT book in one hand and a job offer in the other. Okay. And I ended up going to work for a Fortune 500 as an engineer in food and bev. And I very quickly found out that conservative paycheck every 2 weeks mindset was not for me. Mm-hmm. And so I constantly gravitated towards other people in other parts of the company that were sales and marketing focused, but then also had a number of different side hustles. I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week at the time. I went and worked and lived internationally, worked for a small business to get closer to the roots of, different divisions of a company. I started some fun, different things. I started an affiliate marketing website with Amazon. I made my first 67-cent commission check, selling just random stuff, and was just elated, right? That I could even make a penny doing something online. Unfortunately, that flopped, and we can talk about it if we want. But since then, I then got into venture capital with General Electric as an investor. I then went on the other side of the table and raised venture capital to start a robotics company, which you're referring to, around clean water. And then that company I exited to a publicly traded company. And then recently, 2019, founded most recent SaaS business. We've raised just north of $13 million to do it and are growing like wildfire.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing journey. So let's dial back again. So you're at the Fortune 500. Yes.
So to that end, keep in mind when you're getting ready to start a business and it's seeking capital, your one key message is that I'm going to make you.
You're like, this is not for me, right? I have to start like exploring and learning. How did you end up getting into the robotics and producing this product for clean drinking water?
So I had basically, we'll call it a come to Jesus chat with someone in that Fortune 500 when I was 22 years old. I was working in a manufacturing plant. It's 24/7, 3 shifts a day, going in at 2, 3, 4 a.m. to fight fires. And I felt that the key to a successful business, again, keep in mind, I was an engineer, knew nothing about it, was in manufacturing. It was in product. If you don't have a product to sell, you don't have a business.
Right.
And there was an executive that came into the plant, and he was a sales and marketing guy. And he basically said, you couldn't be more wrong. You have no clue what you're talking about. If we could find someone else to manufacture our thing cheaper, better, faster, we would do it. The only reason we're as successful as we are and that we can sell a 10-cent box of cereal for $4 on a shelf is because of our marketing, our branding, and basically our presence in the market. And that totally blew my mind. And so I sort of crawled back to my cubicle and was like, okay, I got to figure out something else to do in my life. And moving internationally, working in a small business, I found out that I really enjoy the sales and marketing side of things. And I really love that. And I ended up getting an MBA and then went to work for a water company after grad school. And that was my foray into water.
Okay. Now let's fast forward. I want to talk a little bit about raising capital for your business, because I think there are a lot of brilliant people with big ideas that run out of cash before they're able to bring them to fruition. And specifically, I think that the need for venture capital in a service-based business is in a lot of ways unnecessary. Correct. I think in a product-based business, it's one in, I wouldn't even say a million, that you're going to bring a product to market without either burning through every dollar you have, and or going into debt in order to bring it to the market. So I would love for you to share some of the top key learnings that you've had on both sides of the table from a venture capital standpoint that you think could really make a difference for the people that are listening to the show today.
Sure. So let's start on the venture capital side. What an investor is looking for an investable business. The number one thing you have to keep in mind is that they are an investor.
Yes.
They're not your friend. They're not a product marketer. They're not an engineering guru. They are an investor. Their job is to make money for the people that have invested in them. Here's how much I anticipate making you and on what timeline.
Yes.
I won't say everything else is immaterial, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah. I think
job.
I think that's a really, really good baseline, because I think that a lot of businesses fall in love with their product and,
correct.
And that's not necessarily the perspective that an investor is going to have. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a great baseline. Then where would we go from there?
All right. So let's go to the other side of the table. You're an entrepreneur looking to raise money for your product. And I agree with you. A service-based business, you should not raise cash unless you're really trying to blow it up and you absolutely need it.
Agreed.
Along the same lines of an investor needing to make a return, the only way you're going to generate a return for an investor is by generating revenue, by and large. Yes, There are some exceptions to the rule, but most of the time they're looking for a business that's generating healthy cash that they can sell for a great multiple. And the way you're going to generate cash is by sales.
Yeah.
And the problem that a lot of early stage entrepreneurs fall into, especially the ones that are creating products, is that they are product focused first. They love product. They love tinkering. They think that if you build it, they will come, which is the biggest fallacy in all of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
So my number one thing, if you're on the other side of the table looking to build a business and raise capital, is go out and try to sell the product that you are planning to build before you ever build it.
Yeah.
Go to your single biggest customer that you think is going to get the most value from this idea and try to sell it to them. What's going to happen is you're going to learn two things real quick. Number one, can you actually sell? Can you get in front of a decision maker and just get the time of day? That's a challenge in and of itself.
Yeah.
The second one is when you do get in front of that person, how ugly is your baby? And they're going to tell you right away, I'm not going to buy this thing. Here's why. If I was, here's what it needs to do. Here's the price point I'm willing to buy it at, et cetera. And guess what? When you do that, you now have a product roadmap you can use to develop the product that you plan to sell to this person. And you have someone who's already bought in as your first customer.
Love it. Love it. Simple. It is simple, but we don't do things simply.
No, especially if you're passionate about the thing you're building. You know, you're so mission driven, or you've been sitting this idea for 10, 15, 20 years, and you're like, I just got to put this thing out there. You've been tinkering in your garage, whatever. It's not about the product. It's just simply not about the product.
For sure. So talk to us a little bit about some of the specifics of, so let's say someone is like, all right, I want to put a pitch deck together. I want to go find an investor. I feel like for a lot of entrepreneurs, like they don't know where to start or who they would even try to pitch to. How do you discern who or how to get the process started if this is the route that you believe that you should go in your business?
I like that you sort of qualify it with that last statement, because I actually encourage entrepreneurs not to go down the venture capital route if at all possible. Stay away from investors as long as you can. Obviously, a lot of people say the first round of investment in an early stage business is what's called friends and family. If you absolutely desperately need to raise money, you can go to them, make sure they know that they're probably going to lose it. That's quite common. But I would say, again, put the pitch deck aside for a second, go out and try to sell this idea of the thing that you have before you build it. If it's a physical product, you don't need the physical product to go and sell it. You can create languages on your computer. You can create sketches. You can write. Go take that to market first. Once you have that, you might be surprised. You may actually have a customer who's willing to fund this thing, which is the best form of financing in most cases, sales, revenue. Your customer may say, you know what? I don't have the appetite to take the risk that you can build this thing. However, maybe a couple of my friends and I can pull together. Or I know local investor networks that can help out. Maybe I can make some introductions for you. You'll start to see, once you put this stuff out in the world, it's going to return in one way or another. So the most important thing is, don't overthink it. Just go take action. Go get in front of people. Go try to sell it. And I think you're going to find that the money is going to come either in the form of sales or people who are interested in investing, if it's a worthwhile idea.
Yeah, I always say, I think of investors, and I have not pursued investors for any of my businesses. I've just bootstrapped everything. But I always say, I think the same thing applies to investors as applies to preparing a business for exit. If you're building it the right way, you ultimately won't need it. Meaning, along the journey of you trying to get yourself in a position to acquire an investor, the things that you need to do in order to get someone to want to invest, if you fix those things, you probably won't actually need an investor anymore. Because that's probably the reason why you need an investor in the first place. Now, a lot of people obviously do it, and it's amazing. And it allows them to do things that they'd never be able to otherwise. But I think that there's also a downside and a dark side that comes with that, especially depending on the type of investor that you get. Why don't you share a little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly of the different types of investors that you can get in your business, and kind of what you would say the pros and cons are of where you would say, do this, don't do that. And here's what you need to know is going to happen.
So I'll tell you the dark side first, because I think that's probably more fun and what a lot of people aren't exposed to. When you see these big headlines of businesses being bought for 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, billions of dollars. What you don't know is that, I won't say the majority of cases, but a large percentage of those cases, the founding team or the entrepreneurs walk away with nothing. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So you see these big headlines and you're like, holy crap, this person is, a multimillionaire now, they're set for life, etc. I've had multiple friends in Silicon Valley go and raise 10, 20, 50, $100 million, sell their business and walk away with nothing. Now, they may have a lucrative job offer at the end of it, but they aren't making any exit from the 5, 7, 10 years of hard work that they've done in their
How
business.
does that happen? Like, talk to me about how does one get oneself in a situation where that happens? I really need to understand.
Yeah, no. So it's
this is good. This is why I asked the question.
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
why I asked the question.
Absolutely. So there is this. So back to what we talked about a bit earlier, Kelly, around investors being investors.
Yep.
They know all the ins and outs of how to structure deals in a way that's beneficial for them. And they're looking out for number one first.
Yeah.
So when it comes to professional investors, and what I'm talking about specifically are venture capital investors.
Yes.
They know how to structure rounds of financing. They know how to put companies in a position where they're basically in desperate situations needing cash so that they can put more in to buy more of the company.
Yes.
So before you know it, you've layered on multiple rounds of financing.
Like you don't own terms.
Correct. So not only upon an exit scenario, do you not own a meaningful percentage of the company, you don't have a choice of whether or not you want to sell, but you also, in many cases, you're paying back the investors first. And it's not just one set, it's layers of investors before any of the rest of the profits trickle down to the founding team or the entrepreneurs. Yes. And that happens so frequently. Frequently. Yep.
Wow. That's amazing. Yes. Okay. So, I was definitely aware of the deal structuring and the trouble that you can get in with that. I was definitely aware that those big headlines were only fractionally representative of like what the entrepreneur got. But I'm actually very surprised that there are so many people that are exiting and actually not really ending up with anything. I mean, that's amazing, but I completely believe it. And I understand what you're saying, because once you start going down that path and you're doing rounds and rounds of investing, you're giving away. People don't realize that this is how I describe it to entrepreneurs. And again, I'm not for it or against it. I think if it's right for you and you know what you're doing, it can work out really, really well.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people don't realize that once you take on an investor in your business, you now have a boss.
Correct.
This is how I describe it to entrepreneurs. When you take money from someone else, you are not in charge of you and yourself and your business anymore. You now have a boss. You are now accountable to this person, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs think that being an entrepreneur in and of itself is stressful. Well, imagine now you have that stress of being an entrepreneur and you have a boss. And that boss is not going to come in and help you. They're not going to come in and save you. They're just going to sit on the sidelines and whip you. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is my perspective on it, and I've never done it, but that's why I'm asking the questions. This is just my naive perspective. Now, I do want to talk about the good side of investing. Yep. So can you walk us through maybe some times where this can work out really, really well, or some examples that you've seen where it was actually a really good match between the business and the investor that they got. And this was like a match made in heaven. It worked out well for the investor. It worked out well for the business. And why?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are someone considering raising venture capital, and we didn't get into all the different types of investment you can raise for your business, but we'll just
which I would love to. If we have time, I would like to talk about that, because I know they're very, very different.
Sure. So if you're someone that's thinking about raising venture capital, the level of diligence that you should be doing with the investor is at minimum equal to or more than the diligence they're going to do on you as an entrepreneur and as your business. And the best way I had it described to me was, think about it in terms of a marriage, but like 10x the stakes.
Yeah.
It's even more intense than that, and treat it as seriously as you would a marriage. So where it ends up working out is that a really good investor, you could you could almost think of it as like an instant, we'll call it multiplier onto your business, in the sense that 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 3, it equals 50 or 100. And the way that happens, I can speak for myself personally, is that the set of investors that we're working with now at Transcend, they have expertise where we don't. So in our case, that's building software businesses. We have software background, but like we're not a group of software first.
Right. You have the concept and you have the thing that you want to deliver. They have like the technical.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And they understand how to market a business like ours to a broader audience. So when the time comes for an exit, they know how to position it properly. They know how to run all the financials. They know all that stuff. And they have connections to people who may end up being acquirers. Yes. We also have folks that are industry specific experts. So they're making connections to customers. They're getting us in front of panels at different trade shows and conferences. They're the ones that are sending us emails saying, hey, have you guys thought about this? Have you applied for this award? Introducing us to their investors, their LPs, who may also have more connections in a broader arena. So that's where it really works out, is when you're not looking for someone who is a yes man or a yes woman, but someone who's actually going to challenge you in a meaningful way, but also bring connections and expertise that you don't have on the founding team. So you basically have an additional team member of sorts. Yeah. That is going to help you get to that next level.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how does one find these people? You like in this case specifically, did you already have in mind, like, okay, we know what our strengths are, and we want to go find someone that conceptually would be the right marriage. And we're going to go pitch our concept to them and say, here's what we bring to the table. This is what we would want you as an investor to bring to the table. Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes. In our case, that's exactly how it played out. So we're building a software business. It's in this sphere. Here's the types that customers are going after. So let's look at some lookalikes. Let's go on. In my world, you go to Crunchbase. Okay. It's a big database of investors who invest in early stage startups. And you can see who else have they invested in. Have they had exits before? Has anyone been acquired? Have they gone
so you get to do your due diligence on them, just how they're doing.
Majorly. Majorly. But I would say, like, most individuals either aren't ready to go down that path, because it's you have to know what you're doing to a degree. I have a background in venture capital, so it's a bit easy for me to say. I would actually encourage people to look locally. So in a lot of places, there are local investor syndicates, angel investing groups or networks. You can go to the small business centers in your city who can talk to you about different types of financing. Don't think you have to start with this grandiose idea of raising all this money and doing these big things. Start small. Don't overthink it. Get yourself in the market and just put one foot in front of another, and good things are going to happen.
No, that's awesome advice. Are there any resources, books, anything that was helpful for you? Obviously, you learned a lot through experience, right? Because you've been there, done it, you've seen it, you've lived in the world, you've been up close to it. But when you're talking to someone, like the audience that's listening today, are there any resources that you would say to them, like, these are some things that can help you to understand even what conversation you should be having, what questions to ask, how to do due diligence, that kind of thing?
I would say for me, early on in my career, it was more of a mindset shift than a knowledge shift. And the book that changed the trajectory for me was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
It's my favorite book of all time.
Okay,
I reread it every year. I've reread it every year for almost 15 years.
I love that you do that. And it's such a phenomenal reminder that the world is your oyster. Whatever it is that you want to achieve, you can achieve it. So I would say if you're looking for more of a mindset shift, maybe you feel stuck, maybe you feel like you're in a rut, you don't really, you're kind of like, is this really for me? I don't have anyone else to talk to about this stuff. Read a book like Think and Grow Rich, and I think it'll unlock a part of your brain maybe that it wasn't there before, or was there, it just wasn't open to you. Yeah. On the other hand, if you're looking for more technical resources, again, I'd start with a small business center or even a local library. You can ask the librarians, phenomenal resources. Hey, I'm trying to start a business. What books do you recommend I start with? And they'll give you a whole boatload. There's a ton specifically around entrepreneurship and like venture stage companies, Venture Deals, Andreessen Horowitz, Peter Thiel. You can look up these big name investors. They all have books. They're all helpful. But again, like, start small. If you're just getting started, start small. One foot in front of another. Yeah,
that's such great advice. So let's fast forward to today. So now you're building this SaaS company. Yes.
Right.
And you have found that match made in heaven, right? So you're building what you're building. You also have a strategic partner in doing that. Like, talk to me a little bit about what this new venture is that you're creating.
Yeah. So the water mission is near and dear to my heart, both personally and professionally. And what we are aiming to solve is accelerating, fixing the world's broken infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you one data point, and I could bore you for days, Kelly, around this. But the one that I love to mention that people don't even think about around clean water specifically is that in a country like the United States, 30% of fresh water is lost when it leaves the treatment plant before it reaches your house. 30%.
That's insane.
30% is just gone. So when we think about water scarcity, we hear these things like wells are drying up, or you see these horrific pictures of lakes shrinking in Arizona, Nevada, California. 30% of the water is being lost.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be.
That's crazy.
So what we're doing now with Transcend is we have a software that automatically designs this infrastructure without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and man hours, engineering hours to do it. So we can get capital in the ground faster and rebuild faster so we can have better services for all of us.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, that's so great. I don't remember the stats. I've donated to Charity Water for a really long time in my business, where we just fully funded 2 water projects with them in the last 2 years.
Amazing organization.
And yeah, definitely. But I remember when I was doing that, and I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but I think there's like almost 1 billion people that still don't have clean drinking water.
Yes.
I can't wrap my brain around that. And that's why I donate to them consistently, but I cannot wrap my brain around that. I mean, we're talking about putting people on another planet, right? We're sending people into space, and we still have people right here that don't have clean drinking water, but like most of the earth is made up of water, right? It's amazing.
Exactly right.
love that you are doing this work, because
thank you.
I don't know a lot about the technicalities of the infrastructure, but I do know that a lot of the correction that is not being made because of the massive cost to correct and rebuild the infrastructure.
Yes.
And I know even locally here, like I don't drink tap water ever. Like I know what's in that, and everything goes through like massive filtration system. But I was doing research even on the local water here, and it's like they've known there's been issues for years, but it's such a massive project to correct it that they just avoid it. So I really, really, really hope that your company just explodes and changes the world and goes out there and does everything that you have planned, because it can change the world, and it can not only make clean drinking water accessible, but also safe, for everyone. So.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Our North Star metric, we review it every month with our whole team. And then of course with our investors and it's right at the front page of our website. How many people have been impacted by these designs running our software? And to date, I'm happy to say, we were founded in December 2019. So it's almost been 3 years now. Over 87 million people have been directly impacted.
That is incredible. Oh my gosh. Talk about a North Star. That's a North Star right there.
Yep.
I love it. Well, how can the people listening today support what you're doing, follow along, be a part of it? Like, how do we learn more?
Yeah. If you're interested in any of the water stuff, go to transcendh2o.com. Happy to talk to anyone and everyone about the water mission that we're on. If you want to reach out to me personally, I know we talked a lot about entrepreneurship and SaaS, et cetera, investing, but I do open the schedule occasionally to a couple hours a week worth of mentorship for early stage entrepreneurs. So you can email me, meet@adamtank.com, and my assistant will find a time to get us scheduled. And always happy to help out early stage folks. Like, we need all the help we can get.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, congrats on the journey. The work that you're doing is absolutely awe-inspiring with Transcend. So keep doing that amazing work in the world. And thank you for everything that you shared on the show today. I think it was really valuable, gave some great insights from, the inside out of what that world looks like and how to navigate it successfully. So it was great having you here, Adam.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. It's a ton of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you back here soon.